Good morning, YouTubers, boys and girls from all around the world, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're continuing with the dead-eye ties, only now we're working on the top part of the mast, the crow's nest up to the top of the mast instead of the ones on the deck of the ship. These are a little simpler in the fact that I don't have to do double cinching on each dead eye. I only need to do one cinch, and that's making it a little simpler. But we still got to get the cinching to be tied up against the dead eye. And I got a counterweight to my left on my little jiggy, holding the other end of this. So the first few wraps I try to go on the inside of the knot next to the dead eye, and then I bring out the cinching and climb up the rope, or shroud as this is called, I do believe. A little counterweight on there. Hold that while I get the glue. I'll make sure that glue is sort of on both sides of that. And then I dry the excess off, pinch it with the rag. And of course, the camera is always in the way, but that's part of being a creator. Trying to mush that tail in while the glue is not quite set yet. So that one's done. Now we're going to take this over to the ship. And then we'll show you how we get the other side. So now we're going to take that dead eye, feed it through that upper crow's nest, get our rope in the right spot, and then we're going to take our little jig and we make sure we're making sure that this dead eye is oriented with one of the holes on the very bottom. And then we did the same with this one in the shroud. Is we got one of the holes on the very top. So we stick this jig into two of the holes, leaving the one hole on the top and the bottom exposed. We pull it tight. Now we're going to move the ship around. The camera's right in the way again. To this side. And then take the other jig and I'm going to roll it, stick it in there and roll it so one hole's on the bottom and the other two are on the top. The same here. You can see I got one hole on the top, so the single hole that we're going to leave exposed is going to be the furthest away from each other. So I'm going to wrap this around that and pull it pretty snug. I mean, pretty snug. And then we're going to get a clamp on there. Cut the excess. We'll be using that for the next one. So now we want to get some brown cinching thread. And we want to tie our first double granny knot with the single granny knot on top to lock it in this position. So I pull through once, bring it around, pull through twice, get it oriented so the knot will pull tight evenly, and then really put the whammy on it. Everything you can do without breaking something. And then do a single on top of it. And then we'll tie this tail up in the cinching as we cinch it. So now we're ready to go back to the bench and take it out of the jig there. And we'll leave the jig for the first of the lacing. So I'm going to take it back out of the top and go back to the bench. So back here at the bench, get a good grip on that baby. Put our counterweight on, but don't pull it tight yet. Just use the counterweight to hold it. Grab our tail and the shroud. Put this on from underneath so the weight of the clamp doesn't roll the rope. And now we're going to pull a little tighter, not too tight, just a little tighter, and do our first couple wraps right next to the neck of that knot. Then pull it out and start going up the rope. I lost my other little counterweight. Oh, it's back there. get enough glue on that and it won't come undone. Give it a little pinch. Take the first clamp off. Cut the shroud in the tail. This should have had enough time to dry. Got that. Take our clamp off over here. So now we have our pre-tied deadeye for both sides of the ship. All we got to do is feed it through the very top crow's nest and lace it up on both sides. So we're going back to the ship. Okay, before we do the lacing on one side, I'm going to stick that in the mouth of the super glue. Make sure the glue is coming up to the tip of the gun. Pull it out. Then I take my rag and trap it and wipe it off. And then we've got these two already through the top crow's nest up there. So now we just got to stick them back on while we let that super glue dry on that lacing rope. And stick this back on our jig. Making sure we're not tangled up with the previous stick it on that side. So now we got the deadeye in position on both sides, and you can see both sides are a little taller than the first one we did, but when we pull the lacing in there, we'll make it tighter and it'll pull up. So now I'm just looking at the end of this. You can see there's a little fuzz on there. We don't want to fight that fuzz while we're feeding it. Because we got a little, wow, the tweezers got bent there somehow. So we're going to make the knot on the back of the deadeye. Just going to get you up closer here. So we're going to feed this stiff part through that's got the glue on it. And pull the slack all the way to the other end. Well, actually, I went the wrong way. I want to use this stiff part that I put glue on to feed through all the holes on the deadeye. So we got to feed from the other end, and I can't see from where I'm at. I'm going to come around here where I can see the hole. I'm gonna grab my other tweezers. I think I bent those trying to turn one of them dead eyes. And of course now I got a cramp in my finger. I'm trying to get this thread oriented in the tweezers because I want to be able to thread it through get it up through that nail. And then go back through the top hole. That way when I release this jig, I'm going to have to go around the other side here. When I release the jig, I'll have a rope holding it. Now I'm going to pull all the slack to just enough to tie a knot on the other end. And just hang this up there out of the way. So I'm going around and then doing a slip knot if I can get it to go underneath there. There, like that. And then pull the knot tight from the back, not from the front. And put a little pressure on the front and then really tug on it in the back. And then take my little stick put just a little dab on there. Try not to get it in those holes where the nails are sticking through, because that's the last ones we got to feed. So now we can pull the jig off and continue lacing. Doing it that way sort of makes it a little easier to get the lacing started. Everybody's going to have their own procedure. So I usually go through the left or the back side. From the back side, I'll go through the left in order to always work toward the front here with the last ropes, just for ease of working with them. So now this one's coming out of the top back left. You can see how I can pull it down where it's level with the other one. Now I'm going to go in the back on the right bottom. And I'm sort of shooting in the dark on these holes, so a lot of times I'll rotate the ship just a little bit so I can see the hole better. And I literally cannot see it at all right there. So it's not going in. There's a little fuzz on it, but I don't think that's the problem. I may have got some glue in the hole, but I shouldn't have. So I'm sticking my 0.5 millimeter drill bit in there. Clean that baby out. And I'm going to tack it from yep. Sometimes you got to cut it off every now and then. Get a nice crisp end so you can feed it. There we go. Now come back over here. One hole on the top and then come down and tie a knot. Somewhere like that. And I'm going to use this piece of thread for the other side too, so we want this, when it comes around, to be on the top of the one coming down the back. And then we're going to do a simple slip knot, so we pull it through one time. Then I'm going to grab that tail. Let me do it with my left hand. Grab that tail and pull it down where the head of the knot's going to be, and keeping in mind the tension, and we want this to be at the right height. Get the knot where it's close to snug, and then bring it around to the back. Pull it tight. And then use your tweezers to choke the neck of the knot, push it into the back center of the deadeye. And then put a little dab of super glue on there. And then, like I said, I'm going to use this piece because it's long enough and it's already glued on the end to lace the other side up. You can see there how the jig is holding that. Get you over here to the side a little bit so you can see better. So I'm testing this thread to see, yeah, this is the one side with the glue. And I got to get this through that bottom hole there. But I can't see. So from over here, I can see the hole real good. But it's not going in. Hole looks a little small. I just jabbed my tweezers in the opening there. Twisted them around a little bit to see if I can open that hole up. We are not having success. The thread looks okay. So I'm not going to get that in there. I got to go ahead and pop that jig loose. See what's going on here. Oh yeah, see that big burr of wood came out? Hopefully it'll go in now. That was the wrong end. This is the right end here. I don't know if you guys can see that hole back there or not. I think it went in that time. So we're going to rinse and repeat. Feed this up through there. Up to there. And get it back through that top hole that's open. I had it. When I let go of the tweezers, I pulled it back out. Did it again. Go ahead and pull this off. We do have it through the bottom. Well, I just have to hope that we can get that knot tied without losing our shirt. We need about 2 or 3 inches of tail. Get that out of the way. Pull that tight. Get some glue. On a stick. I've seen it in the Micromark catalog. They got some glue dispensing bottles that got a real long little skinny snake tube to put on your glue bottle. And then one of the YouTubers I watch that builds ships has got the same thing. Now we're cooking with gas. When I was a youngster, well, teenager, the first job I ever had, I used to work for 50 cents an hour sweeping the floors in my dad's shop, and he did sandblasting and Teflon coating and fluoroplastic PVC coating, stuff like that. But after I got a real job, one thing he did learn me when I was working there is how to paint, how to spray paint, and how to clean up metal before you put the paint on or primer. My first job was working for a sign painter that hand painted signs. And one of the employees there was an old English gentleman that sort of mentored me through the process. I want that to go over the top. So if you make your loop coming around, go over the top of the rope coming down from the deadeye group. That way when it pulls tight, it's going to pull down on that instead of up. So I'm looking for my pliers. Almost dropped them on my foot. So I want to grab this last hole, leaving the deadeye. Get that knot close to snug, and then bring it around the back while I had that tension on there and checking the height. Pull that knot tight around the back side. So anyway, that old English guy from Britain or Wales or whatever was a true hand sign painter. Be able to paint letters on a sign that really looked good. And there's a lot of tricks to the optics. And of course the type of paint you use is critical too. One of the things he taught me, I'm looking for my stick. One of the things he taught me was, you know, when you're hand painting a letter and you got to try to make a crisp, clean edge on the outside edge of that letter as you fill in the paint around it, you need to lean your wrist against something so you're not, your whole arm isn't floating out there depending on your muscles to hold it where you don't shake at all. And even somebody that doesn't shake will still have a hard time making a true smooth straight line with a paintbrush, because the paint itself can flow outside the edge of that spot where you want it to. And part of knowing how that consistency of the paint is and the border edge of your line and all that mess, you gotta have something to lean your hand or your wrist or your arm against while you're doing that work. And just like we're here with the tweezers and so forth, you want to try to lean the back of your hand or the edge of your wrist against something else that's stationary so it can help you steady yourself while you're doing that fine move. See if I can cut this other tail off here. But he was a cool old guy. I learned a lot from him. So that's 2 on the main mast. I already got the foremast done on both sides. You can see how the knots are in the back. So when you look at the front, you don't see any ugly knots. And there's only one knot at the bottom, not on the top. And try to make it where you only have one place for your knots when you do these lacings. And it makes it look so much better. And then the other trick is orienting these dead eyes so that one hole's on the top opposite the one hole on the bottom, and try to keep them that way all the way through. That way all 3 ropes in the front are straight and vertical and they don't cross over or anything. Now they do cross over a little bit in the back, but that's harder to see because the ones in the front are blocking that view. So 2 more to go on this mast, and then we got 3, or what do you call 6 really, 6 and 4 to go. Well, that's the process I'm using. Little bench work at first, stick it through up top, put the jigs on and tie another one on the other side, take it back to the bench and cinch it, bring it back over here and stick it through, put it in the jigs, and start your first 2 holes with the lacing. Take the jigs off, finish the lacing, do your final knots and glue it. Well, some pretty good progress for this week. First week in August. We might get this done by the end of the year. I had some YouTube comments about the yard arms. This will be the one for the bowsprit. These are the gaffs for the mizzen mast. And the mizzen mast sail, all yard arms. The main mast and the foremast. So those are all ready to sew the sails onto them, which I'm going to do before I install these on the mast. We'll get all the sails sewed on, each one as needed, and then install them one at a time, because the other side of this print is mostly the sail installation, but for one sail there's going to be like 8 to 12 ropes, So that bowsprit sail's got a whole bunch of ropes after you install it. So each one's going to be a project in its own. We got to finish up the rest of the standing rigging. Like next week I'm going to work on rat lines and some more of this standing rigging that's over here. And a lot of standing rigging to finish up before we get to the point where we're ready to put some sails on. There again is some more rigging for the sail yard arms. Each one of them's got quite a bit. Research to figure out where they all go, where the ropes go. But we'll attack those one at a time after we get the rat lines done, which is going to take a long time. I'm probably thinking 2 or 3 weeks maybe at the rate I'm working on it. I spent all day yesterday doing yard work and mowing, and today we went to Tampa to visit family, so I didn't work on it today. But we'll get back to it next week. Making good progress though. Thanks for watching.